The town of Hollybrook was picture perfect. A blanket of snow covered the quaint houses, their windows glowing with warm, inviting light. Christmas carols echoed from within, their melodies crisp in the frosty air. The aroma of gingerbread and pine filled every corner, a testament to the festive spirit that permeated the very essence of the town. Children, bundled up in colourful scarves and mittens, laughed as they played in the snow, their joyous shrieks music to the ears. It was a scene straight out of a Christmas card, an idyllic winter wonderland where joy seemed eternal and darkness dared not tread. The change was subtle at first. A sudden gust of icy wind, biting and unnatural, would whip through the town square, leaving a trail of shivers in its wake. Whispers of an ancient evil, whispered by the wind through the skeletal branches of the ancient trees that lined the edge of town, spoke of a creature of the night, a creature of shadow and ice, a creature who revelled in the fear of the innocent. Then came the whispers, hushed and urgent, passed from neighbour to neighbour. Stories of a creature that stalked the snow-laden streets under the cloak of darkness. Stories of a being who punished the wicked and instilled terror in the hearts of children who strayed from the light. Stories of Krampus. The whispers were enough to send a chill down the spine, a creeping dread that sunk its claws into the heart of the town's Christmas spirit. Krampus. The name itself was a curse, spoken only in hushed tones heavy with fear and foreboding. He was the shadow of St. Nicholas, the antithesis of Christmas cheer. Where Santa Claus rewarded the good, Krampus punished the bad. But his methods were far from saintly. He was a grotesque mockery of a man, his twisted form a nightmare brought to life. His eyes, two burning embers in the night, blazed with malevolent glee. Two gnarled horns, like those of a monstrous ram, protruded from his head, casting menacing shadows in the flickering lamplight. His tongue, long and serpentine, licked out from between jagged teeth, tasting the fear that clung to the air like a dense fog. He was the embodiment of Yuletide terror, a creature born of nightmares and winter's darkest fears. The first sign was the disappearance of young Timmy Carter. One moment he was there, his laughter echoing through the snow-filled streets. The next, he was gone, vanished without a trace. His parents found his sled overturned near the edge of the woods, his scarf lying abandoned in the snow. They spoke of other missing children snatched from their warm beds in the dead of night. Toys lay scattered on the floor, a testament to interrupted play. Doors were bolted, windows were shuttered, but no lock could keep out the chilling dread. Hollybrook had become a place of empty beds and broken toys, where the shadow of Krampus loomed large. The idyllic Christmas Eve had transformed into a scene of pure horror. The snow, once sparkling white, was now stained crimson in patches, a gruesome testament to Krampus's reign of terror.
The aroma of pine and gingerbread. It was gone, replaced by the pungent stench of sulphur, a suffocating odor that clung to the back of the throat and spoke of the underworld.
The Christmas lights, once so cheerful and bright, flickered erratically, casting grotesque shadows that danced menacingly on the walls of the terrified homes.
The once harmonious carols were replaced by the mournful howling of the wind, a symphony of despair that echoed the terror in our hearts.
The laughter of children, once the soundtrack of Hollybrook, was no more. In its place, a terrified silence hung heavy in the air, broken only by the sobs of distraught parents and the whispers of the wind as it carried the sounds of Krampus's approach closer and closer. The streets, once bustling with holiday cheer, were deserted, the snowdrifts undisturbed except for the occasional set of deep cloven hoofprints. The once welcoming homes were now boarded shut, the windows dark and lifeless.
We cowered inside, our Christmas spirit crushed under the weight of terror. We huddled together in the flickering candlelight, our faces drawn and pale, our eyes wide with a fear that bordered on madness.
The only sound was the frantic beating of their hearts, a terrifying counterpoint to the eerie silence that had descended upon Hollybrook.
Each gust of wind, each creak of a floorboard, each howl of the distant dog sent shivers down our spines. We were prisoners in our own homes, trapped by our fear and the knowledge that the monster outside was real.
He was here, and he was not leaving until he had claimed them all.
As the night deepened, so did the despair. The festive cheer that had once illuminated Hollybrook was nothing but a distant memory, replaced by a bone-chilling dread that permeated every corner of the town.
The once warm hearths now seemed cold and lifeless, their fires unable to penetrate the icy grip of fear that had settled over everything. The Christmas tree in the town square, once a symbol of hope and joy, stood bare and forlorn, its ornaments shattered, its lights extinguished.
The townsfolk, their spirits broken, huddled in the darkness, their prayers for a Christmas miracle echoing unanswered in their hearts. The once comforting traditions of Christmas Eve, carols, stories, and the exchange of gifts were forgotten, replaced by a desperate struggle for survival against a force far beyond their comprehension.
The promise of Christmas morning, a time for joy, family, and the celebration of life, seemed like a cruel joke in the face of the horror that had befallen them. The very air seemed to crackle with terror, the oppressive silence broken only by the mournful moan of the wind as it whistled through the skeletal trees. The stars, usually so brilliant in the winter sky, were hidden behind a thick curtain of storm clouds, casting the town in an oppressive, almost tangible darkness. It was as if Hollybrook itself had been dragged into the depths of a nightmare, a chilling dreamscape where the familiar had become terrifying, and the safe harbour of home had transformed into a prison of fear. Sleep, once a refuge from the day's worries, was now an impossibility. Every creak of the floorboards, every sigh of the wind, every howl of the distant dog sent shivers down their spines. The townsfolk huddled together, their eyes wide with terror, their ears straining for any sound that might herald the return of the creature. They were trapped not by physical bars, but by the invisible chains of fear, their spirits slowly crumbling under the weight of their helplessness. Krampus's reign of terror was absolute. He moved through the town like a phantom, his presence heralded by the stench of sulphur and the chilling sound of chains dragging across cobblestones. He was judge, jury, and executioner, his judgment swift and brutal. The townsfolk were at his mercy, their fate hanging precariously in the balance as they listened to the sounds of his approach, each clang of his chains a death knell to their dwindling hopes. The Christmas they had so eagerly anticipated had become a night of unimaginable horror, a testament to the darkness that lay hidden beneath the veneer of civilization. They had forgotten the true meaning of the season, allowing greed and selfishness to overshadow the spirit of giving and compassion. And Krampus, the dark mirror to Santa Claus, was there to remind them of their failings in the most terrifying way imaginable. As the first rays of dawn pierced the oppressive darkness, a deathly silence descended upon Hollybrook. The snow-covered streets were empty, the homes eerily silent. The only evidence of the night's horror was the lingering stench of sulphur and the scattered toys, lying abandoned like the remnants of a forgotten dream. Krampus was gone, melted back into the shadows from whence he came, leaving behind a shattered town and a chilling truth in his wake. He was awoken not by the wickedness of children, as the legend suggested, but by the darkness that festered in the hearts of the adults. The greed, the selfishness, the lack of compassion. These were the true sins that drew Krampus to Hollybrook. he was a reflection of their own failings. A terrifying reminder that the Yuletide season was not about material possessions, but about the capacity for love, kindness and forgiveness. And in their pursuit of the former, they had forgotten the importance of the latter, leaving themselves vulnerable to the darkness that lurked within their own hearts.